Hello everyone. Welcome to MyDBOps MyWebinar 45. We are happy to have you with us today. This is Shiny from MyDBOps, your host for the session. The topic for today's webinar is secure audit logs in MySQL 8.4, a very important area, especially when it comes to keeping your databases secure and meeting compliance requirements. And if you have any questions during the session, feel free to drop them in the comment section. Our team is here and will answer them right away. Our speaker today is Vinoth Kanna, founding partner at MyDBOps. Vinoth has 13 plus years of experience in managing databases, improving performance, and helping companies scale their databases effectively. He is also a regular speaker at open source tech events. Let's get started. Vinoth, over to you.
Hey, thanks Shiny for your kind intro. Welcome guys for the MyDBOps 45th edition of webinar. Today we are going to deep dive into audit logs changes in MySQL 8.4. Here is a quick intro about me. I am Vinoth Kanna, co-founder of MyDBOps. I do database for a living. And my role at MDS manager as in MyDBOps is making the database management simple at scale. And here is an interesting fact about MyDBOps. And this month, we have completed our 9th year of operations and we are stepping into the 10th year. At MyDBOps, we have 800 plus happy clients and we support top database technologies like MySQL, Mongo, Postgres, MariaDB, TiDB and Cassandra. And coming back to today's agenda, we are going to focus on the evolution of audit logging in MySQL, followed by the introduction of the new audit log filter. Then we will do a quick comparison on legacy plugin and how it is changed in the new audit log filter, followed by architecture and configuration, security and compliances with some practical examples. We will conclude the session with the key takeaways and how to improve observability and alerting. Here is a quick evolution of audit logging in MySQL. Audit logging comes as an enterprise feature in MySQL right from the early versions of MySQL since 5.5. Then at the time, we had a majority of plugins that enables to implement audit logging in open source versions. Those include MariaDB Audit Log Plugin and Percona Audit Log Plugin. In the early days, we had one more audit plugin called as McAfee Audit Plugin, which were used prominently. And after the recent releases, the popularity got faded away. The project was not maintained. And even today, AWS RDS uses MariaDB's version of Audit Log Plugin, and they have improvised themselves. And the publicly available audit log for AWS RDS is updated till 8.2, but up-to-date version 8.4 still uses the MariaDB Audit Log Plugin. It's a quick introduction. Compared to the open source audit logs and MySQL Enterprise plugin, till 8.0, we can say that MySQL Enterprise Audit plugin is feature rich, but it requires licensing. So we had to use open source versions to avoid that. Okay, so why are audit logs so crucial for your business? The important point being the compliances. To have compliances for GDPR, HIPAA, PCI DSS, all your access trails and data access trails has to be maintained. Okay, and when in case of a forensic analysis, okay, this audit logs becomes the primary source of truth. And also it delivers operational insights to debug application level issues. Like in case if you are failing, if you are getting access denied in an application, okay, we will be able to identify if there are any connection failures, any query failures, without having to debug plethora of application logs. And it's a quick insights on how the legacy audit plugin worked till 8.2. We had a loosely coupled plugin-based architecture. The plugin-based architecture has to depend on a rigid API of MySQL, which has a lot of limitations in terms of what data it can access. When it comes to configuration, most of them are managed by global variables and often require restarts. We had a basic filtering available on audit plugins till 8.2, which can have include and exclude list of users, commands, and databases. Okay. This could possess a significant overhead in high traffic environments. And it is limited to only one rule. You cannot have multi-rule model in the older audit plugin. The one-size-fits-all approach was difficult to manage the complex needs that we have right now. Okay, here comes the audit log filter, which is newly introduced in 8.4. 8.4 audit log filter uses tightly integrated component model. In the component model, once it is installed in MySQL, it has a lot of controls over the underlying database, right? This big change can in future will help to evolve this audit log filter into a more powerful tool, even in the firewall, even to the extent of firewall as well. And the interesting fact is that it has a multi-rule model. You can able to create multi-filter rules and assign different filter rules to different user profiles and the database object profiles. This allows us to granularly control the audit logging without extensive source storage and efficient performance. Here is a quick comparison of plugin versus component model when it comes to persistent, right? When we install audit plugin, we have to ensure that it is persisted across restart, which means that we have to have that variables listed on the CNF file. In case if that file got corrupted or moved away, or the force load permanent kind of a variables were missing, the startup will itself will fail. Okay. When it comes to component, once you have installed the component, no changes in the CNF file is required. And all the operations that can be performed can be dynamically performed using the SQL functions. So the overhead is simplified and the process is more robust when using a component model. And as we move to 8.4 audit log filter, here is a quick comparison of features in current enterprise and open source. Both uses JSON kind of a model, and both supports encryption, compression, and multimodal approach. So this democratizes the enterprise grade auditing and making it accessible to every one of the MySQL community users. So now we were able to bridge the enterprise level compatibility or flexibility into the open source audit logging. Now let's deep dive into how it is how the architecture of the audit log plugin is there and how to enable it and use it for our configuration. When it comes to the audit log filter, there are two major tables which is going to play a major role. Okay, so those are audit log filter and audit log users. Audit log filters is the place where we are going to define all our auditing rules. Then these rules are mapped to the users, which needs to be attached to that filter rules. Okay, so and you can have a number of audit filter rules, and multi filters can be attached to a different user profiles. This dynamic configuration helps to make changes in these rules at runtime without needing a server restart. So first we will define a audit log filter. Then we will map that to the required user accounts to have the audit logging enabled. This is the step-by-step approach that we have to follow to enable audit logging. The step one being loading the audit tables. There is a file given in the share folder. We have to load that, which will create the structures required for audit logging, which includes audit log filter and audit log user tables. Followed by, we have to configure basic parameters like what format you want to store. And we are going to discuss that in later slides. There are various formats available, XML, JSON, and various compression mechanisms, right? Various compression mechanisms and encryption mechanisms are available where we will be able to define that in the second step. Post that, we can able to define the filters. Then we will be assigning the users. Okay, so these are the sequence of actions that we need to perform to make the audit log filter live. So let's start with the step one. We are going to load this install script of the audit log filter. Once we import this file, it is going to create audit log filter and audit log user table. Post which we have to install the component. Once the component is installed, we have an opportunity to define what are the key configuration parameters that we want. Some of the key parameters includes the format of the audit log itself. The old and new uses the XML based formatting, and the modern formatting that we recommend to use is JSON based. And the second key component that we are going to use is the file descriptor. This file will help us to define the location of the audit log. It depends upon the log directory that you are going to store. You can able to change that. When you don't use that, the default location will be on your data directory in the name of auditfilter.log. Okay, so then you have to make a decision whether you need to encrypt the file and have compression. If you're going to use it in production, I would strongly recommend you to use encryption as well as compression. Number one, encryption will safeguard you from plain text reading, and number two, compression will save you space. And there is one more key parameter called as max size. As this audit logging is going to grow, it's tend to grow in a rapid fashion depending upon the aggressiveness of the logging filters that you enable. It is very important to restrict the max size that you're going to allocate for the audit logging purpose. Audit log filter provides two variables that controls that. The first variable helps you to control the size of a single file, and more than that, the important parameter is max size, where it defines how much is the total capacity of the audit logs I can store in my server. Okay, default is a 1 GB, and you can extend it as per the requirements that you have or the free space that is available to you. And these are the major parameters. And once you configure this, you will require a restart. But if you can live with the default values like XML formatting and default audit log being in the data directory, we don't require any further changes in the configuration. So once you restart that, you are good to go. You are ready to define the audit log rules. Okay, so the first command, remove filter, is usually we do that as a part of our regular practice. Like we tend to clean up before we create new. Okay, since it's a fresh instance, it may not be required. The first, I'm going to take one example. I'm going to record all the read and write operations as well as grant operations and schema changes. Here I have defined operation as read, write. Write includes insert, updates, and deletes, and DCL includes grant statements, and DDL includes schema changes. Okay, so I want to enable all the majority of the database operations to be logged along with connection, and disconnection. Okay, so this is a JSON structure we have to follow. It is into class, subclass model. Okay, here first I have used class connection, which can record, connect, and disconnect of an user accounts. And second, I have used table access model, where we can record, read, write, and DCL, like operations, various operations that is related to a table. And the last module we have, last class we have used is a query class, which prints the query text. Once we have done all this framing of the filter, then we can able to use an identifier to load the filter. We use the SQL function audit log filter set filter to define that. So we are going to set an identifier called as log queries, and we are going to load the JSON we have constructed. Once it returns successfully okay, we are good to proceed to the next step. In the next step, we are going to assign this log query filter to percentage. When you say percentage, it applies to the wildcard character. It applies to all user accounts. So now with this combination, what we are saying is that irrespective of the users, if there are reads, writes, DCL, and DDL occurring on the database, it should be logged. Okay. So once it is done, we will be able to see our data getting populated on the log file in a JSON format. Okay. So when it comes to the performance consideration, we have a key parameter called as audit log strategy. This defines how my log should be written, how aggressive my log should be written. It has three modes of operation. One is synchronous, second one is performance, and third one is asynchronous. The default mode is asynchronous mode. This audit log filter has an in-memory buffer called as audit log buffer size, configured by audit log buffer size. So when this buffer gets full, okay, then the logs is flushed to the log file. Okay, all the sessions that is coming to the system will wait until this flush gets completed. And when it comes to performance model, it will go to the full state. When the buffer goes to the full state, during the time it flushes to the disk, the events are dropped. Okay, which means that there won't be any pause in operations that is getting encased, but we will risk of losing some data. Performance mode will be really useful when we are enabling it for troubleshooting purposes or connection failures or troubleshooting purposes, where the lost events is not making a significance. But in all other cases, like when you do it for compliances, that is not recommended. The recommended mode is asynchronous mode. Okay, because we don't lose events that is happening on the database. Okay, so how to tune that, right? We have a status variables exposed by audit log filter. If we have audit log write weights consistently high, then we can look into increasing the audit log buffer size. The default size is small and it is quick enough to flush to the disk. So in 90% of the cases, the default value would suffice. And when it comes to security, encryption is the primary requirement these days. Okay. In previous versions, the audit logs are not encrypted. The data can be exposed in plain text. Okay. This 8.4 audit log filter addresses that. Now your audit logs can be encrypted with AES encryption. Okay. And this encryption key is stored in a keyring plugin. And you will have your password. You have to set the password to access the log files which are encrypted. When it comes to compression along with the encryption encryption comes first, then compression has to be taken up. Okay, this changes, the setting up this encryption require audit admin privilege to set the password and get the password. And to enable this, you need to have audit log filter encryption set to AES during the startup. And here is the variable that you need to use for compression. So this audit log filters enables you to perform native compression on the audit logs using zzip. When you set during the startup, the logs will be rotated and new log will be initiated on enabling encryption or compression or together. Okay, I'm going to share few interesting features of audit logs that I admire most, which was not there in the previous audit log plugins. These were logging failures. Previously, we get to store the logs, but irrespective, we cannot able to control whether I need to only log the failures or only I need to log the success. Here, we can have a granular control to store the failure alone. For example, I'm going to record all the access denied errors that is happening on my system. Okay, and I need to take an action as a DB. Okay, I will be able to do that. How? I can write a filter on connection and set the event connect to status 1. What does status 1 means? Status 0 means success. Anything apart from 0 is considered as failure or returns an error code. When you set it to status to 1 on the filter, what it basically does is, it is going to capture all the failures in the connections and record it on your log. Later, you can have an alerting setup and you can able to take an action. And the second important feature I'm going to explain is the negative filtering. So far we have discussed about enabling certain things like enabling DDL, enabling DML, writes, reads, right? And also like we have seen about how we can able to enable the failure based logging. And this is a negative filtering. What does negative filtering means is, I can call the certain class like table access and say that only ignore read, which means that it's an inversely applicable, right? Like for example, it's going to record anything apart from read. That simplifies how you define the rules. Okay, rather than stating all possible events, we can simply negate which I don't want. This flexible query language helps us to easily address any kind of complex requirements that we have in terms of auditing. And the third component is category based. We have already seen few examples where we had multiple categories. In here, if you want certain categories like schema changes to be logged for certain users or all the users, we will be able to only address that particular operation and assign that profile, that filter profile to different user accounts. Okay, how it can be used to alert the DBAs, right? The one more interesting component which is developed by Audit Log Filter, which is not available in the previous Audit Log version, is the read functions. You could have seen that how you can read the binary logs from the command line. Okay, you can do show bin log events in and do the bin log reading. They have come up with similar approach. You don't need to use file-based pooling model. You can able to use some kind of a query model. You can have a timestamp from where you need to fetch the next set of writes, or you can query the database using audit log read function and set the parameter, the event where you last read, using the ID or timestamp. When you do that, you can able to continuously poll the data for the audit logs, and you can able to use it in event management tools like Splunk, Elastic, or Greylog. On top of that, you will be able to set up alerts or dashboards. And to perform this action, we need the user with audit admin privilege. And imagine that you are a highly sensitive data environment. You have a highly sensitive data environment, and you need to have compliances like PCI DSS, GDPR, as well as ISO, right? PCI DSS mostly talks about tracking all access to cardholders' data. It can be card numbers, it can be PII data, and GDPR requires access to all the PII data, all the implement access and data tracking for all the personal data. And SOX 2 requires all your financial records has to be audited, right? You will be able to define the required profiles like filter rules for each of the compliances, which can be customized to the level of the database object itself. It can be a specific database or it can be specific set of tables. That level of customization is available in the current audit logging, which is not there before. As I explained you guys earlier, older audit logging works on one size fits all approach. This recent audit log filter component enables us to do complex operation in terms of how we foresee the audit logs, thereby reducing a lot of storage and efficient performance. Okay, so when you have decided you want to implement it in your current systems, what are the best practices that it can follow to enable secure and scalable auditing, right? My best advice to you guys is like to start small. Work on your rules, right? There are a lot of classes that is available like general, table access, connections, queries. Okay. And I like to call out one more important point is that the current documentation doesn't include all the relevant classes and subclasses clearly. The one way that you can do is initially you can enable auditing for all the events, then see which events that you are interested in, and you will be able to define the rules. Start with small, try to write simple logic, simple JSONs for your requirements. Okay. Don't overly generate logs and generate excessive noise. Be aware of using particular user accounts for testing before going to enable it for all the user accounts. Okay. And one more important point is that the security is not only lies with the service, but also with the host. What does it mean, right? Though we secure through encryption, when the host is compromised, your data can be exploited. So strict file permissions are very important. And if you are a highly concurrent database environment, measuring the impact, performance impact also comes into play. Audit Log Filter has exposed a lot of status metrics like we have explained in before slides. Okay. Observe the performance indicators like log weights, how it is trending when there is a peak workload on your database. Optimize the relevant variables. And always configure max size for your combined audit log storage, right? Why it is important? To avoid getting 100%, we don't want that in production. There is one more variable that you can use. You have enough ample space and you want to do it through retention by number of days. You can use prune seconds to do that. But my advice is go with max size because you never know. A day like you generate more than anticipated volume of audit logs and which can fill up your storage. Okay, so here are the key takeaways. The legacy audit plugin is gone in 8.4 and is no longer available and is replaced by a powerful audit log filter component. I'm very happy with this new audit log filter, given the capabilities and the problem it solves. Now the configuration is more flexible using the SQL functions and JSON-based rules, and also has critical pieces like encryption and native compression. And this is going to be this new auditing framework is going to be a critical tool for any organization that is serious about security and compliances. There is no doubt about it. Having said that, this initial versions, you may face some hiccup, and given the nature of the component model, it can have more features in the upcoming releases also. I can still foresee that. Like, for example, I can see about XM kind of roles are already provided, but there is no class to work with that right now. But I strongly believe that in future, we may get to have more robust features introduced in audit log filters. And thanks for your time in attending this webinar. Hope you have a great weekend ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vinoth, for that informative and practical session on secure audit logs in MySQL 8.4. To everyone who joined us today, a big thank you for being here. We truly hope that this session gave you some valuable takeaways. And for those who are new to us, we are MyDBOps, a team that has been around since 2016. We have had the chance to support over 800 happy customers with database consulting and managed services. And we work with a wide range of databases: MySQL, MariaDB, MongoDB, Postgres, TiDB, Cassandra. And we are all about making database management simpler, faster, and better for our clients. We also believe in giving back to the community, so these webinars are one of the ways we share our knowledge, experiences, and learn together. If you found this session useful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more database content. Follow us on LinkedIn to stay updated with our latest blogs, services, and events. If you have any further questions or require additional information, feel free to reach out to us at info@mydbops.com or visit our website mydbops.com. We will also be sharing the webinar recording in the upcoming week, so stay tuned for that. Thanks again for being a part of MyDBOps My Webinar. We will catch you in the next time. Thank you.